Corey Finley. Full name, Coraletta Pearl Finley, but only her mother ever dared drawl all those syllables. Lived halfway down the continental shelf, in a loft made from the hollowed-out skull of a gentle blue whale. She had a kelp hammock, a moon jelly chandelier, and the single most eclectic collection of seashell vinyl anyone had ever seen. Yet despite the comfy decor and an address that would make a seahorse swoon, Corey felt vaguely landlocked. It hit her one Tuesday while she was polishing a conch trumpet. In every direction there was water. Yes, but no platform for her real passion. Comedy. The weekly Barnacle open mic at Siren's Grotto was fun, and she killed at funerals. Merfolk believed you shouldn't bury a loved one without at least 3 decent punchlines. But Corey wanted reach. She wanted fans. Most of all, she wanted validation from creatures who didn't already have a tail for convenient applause. "Start a podcast," suggested her neighbor, a technophile sea cucumber named Kelvin. Kelvin spoke in baritone burps and emitted Wi-Fi bubbles from tiny antennae somebody had glued on during a science fair prank. Everybody's got one. Even Captain Kraken launched Tentacle Talk. Ratings are incredible. Corey mulled it over while knitting starfish into a throw pillow. A podcast! Audio! That meant she didn't need legs to stand on stage, or hair that could withstand a hairdryer. She just needed a microphone, a quiet reef, and jokes so sharp they could slice through salt water. Kelvin donated a refurbished shell microphone with pearlized pop filter. A trio of crab interns agreed to handle editing in exchange for exposure, and literally nothing else. And so, Gilling Me Softly with Corey Finley was born. Episode 1 landed, well, splashed, onto major platforms. See Safai, Tide Cloud, and a rogue RSS feed that somehow beamed its way up to Land Dweller services. Within hours, the analytics crystal displayed a surprising distribution. 83% of listeners were surface creatures, lounging in dorm rooms or commuter trains. Corey's trident-shaped graph line spiked so hard, it could have harpooned a dolphin. She was thrilled. And then the emails poured in. "Dear Corey," wrote username CatMom99. "Love your voice, but what's a gill slapper? Yo, posted a Jimbro goes scuba." I laughed, but also almost drowned, because you said, "Hold your breath for this next joke." It took exactly 3 episodes before Corey realized she'd been performing underwater humor for lungs, not gills. Entire punchlines relied on ocean currents, osmotic puns, or the fact nobody down here breathes oxygen molecules unfiltered. Up there on land, an algae traffic jam was not a relatable Monday problem. She gathered her production team. Kelvin, the 3 crab interns, Clip, Clop, and Clippy, and Opal, the noise-canceling clam who doubled as a studio door. "Guys, we have a relatability crisis," Corey announced. Clippy raised a claw. "Is this about the sea urchin dental plan?" "No, but remind me to cancel that. It's spiky bureaucracy." They brainstormed fixes. Cue cards in English, a glossary, replace obscure barnacle culture jokes with evergreen humor. Or, suggested Kelvin, hire a translator. Someone bilingual in Aquan and Lungish. Corey snapped her fingers. Well, tried. The water dampened both sound and effect. Ozzy! The mimic octopus! Ozzy could imitate anything. Shark, seahorse, even tax accountants. If anyone could calibrate jokes for air breathers, it was him. They signed him for scale, which in aquatic contract law meant payment in live mollusks. Episode 4 debuted. Gilling Me Softly. Gills Optional Edition. Corey opened with her usual gusto. "What's up, my filter-feeding fam? Gather round, we're about to flounder. Get it? In fun." A red light blinked. Ozzy tapped a tentacle on cue. Corey cleared her throat. "Sorry, surface folks. Let me reoxygenate that for you. Hey guys, what's up? Prepare to flounder. In fun. Flounder's a fish. Fish. Still funny? Feedback improved from LOL to polite chuckles typed out as hey, hey, hey. Progress. But there were translation complications. Ozzy loved wordplay so much he kept adding side puns. Corey would say, I swam into a seahorse bar. And Ozzy, over-eager, would annotate, for land listeners, think dive bar, but wetter. Also, neighborhood watch. The digressions ballooned 30-minute episodes into hour-long marathons with comedic cul-de-sacs broader than the Mariana Trench. One irritated commuter tweeted, Great pod. But I arrived at work before the punchline. Had to sit in parking lot till it surfaced. Corey trimmed scripts, tightened segments. That's when opportunity knocked, or rather, pecked. An email from ShorecastCon, the biggest podcaster festival in the Eastern Seaboard, invited her to do a live crossover episode with human influencer Becky Beckford, host of Becky's Brunch and Banter. Kelvin spat a sand grain in excitement. Land gig! You'll nail relatability. I don't have legs, Corey reminded him. Details, said Kelvin. Already uploading 3D schematics for a portable hydropod. A glass orb filled with seawater, strapped to a hover drone, and equipped with audio ports. Corey could float on stage like a helium balloon, but make it aquatic. Bill Day looked like Mythbusters had collided with Little Mermaid fan fiction. Clip, clop, and Clippy hammered choral struts. Ozzy soldered circuits by ejecting controlled bursts of Electric Eel's sidekick, Sparky. After 3 electrolytic mishaps and 1 eel union grievance, the bubble pod gleamed, ready for terrestrial travel. Departure morning, Corey recorded a farewell bumper. If you hear gargling, that's just me on tour. Don't adjust your headsets. The bubble pod zipped upward, breaching the surface with a sound like a champagne bottle popped by Poseidon. Landing zone. Atlantic City Boardwalk. Vendors stopped hawking fried dough as a floating sphere descended, inside which sat a mermaid clutching a shell mic, hair flowing in gentle currents. A child dropped his ice cream into the sand. A seagull stole it. Nobody cared. Corey had arrived. Backstage at ShorecastCon smelled of ring lights, foam panels, and influencer nerves. Becky Beckford met Corey with a hug that thudded against the glass. Babe, I am so vibing your brand. Do you need, salt? Got plenty, Corey said, gesturing at her environment. The live episode began. Becky introduced her, and the crowd cheered. Corey, buoyed by applause and brine, riffed. So great to be here on land. Honestly, I haven't felt this dry since my ex tried to exfoliate me with a pumice stone. Laughter. Solid. Corey surged ahead. You know traffic up here is wild, but at least your algae doesn't bloom in lanes 3 through 5. Am I right? Silence, except vague coughing. Ozzy wasn't present to translate. The bubble pod cockpit allowed no extra cephalopods. Corey improvised. Right, because, you don't have algae at rush hour. You have toll booths. Which, same vibe, but with coins. One pity chuckle. She pivoted to a crowdwork segment. Sir, where are you from? A guy in row 4 replied. Des Moines. Corey blinked. Des. What kind of reef is that? The bubble pod's pressure sensors beeped. Her cheeks flushed turquoise. She realized she'd submerged the conversation, literally and figuratively, in insider references again. Post-panel reviews were mixed. Mermaid was adorable, but jokes went over my head. Maybe because she was floating 6 feet high, wrote a blogger. Another raved. Most original pod session ever. She committed to the bit with a fish tank. Back underwater, Corey regrouped. If she wanted universal humor, she'd have to study surface culture. So began Operation Upstream. Nightly viewings of terrestrial sitcoms broadcast via pirated satellite clams, interviews with visiting scuba divers, even a book club. Her first paperback promptly disintegrated. They switched to waterproof e-readers shaped like dorsal fins. Confident, Corey rolled out season 2, complete with new segments, Surface Tension, where she dissected land headlines, Thank You Very Much, a gratitude portion, and a call-in line, bridging the air-water gap through magic kelp fiber optics. First caller, Brenda from Minneapolis. Hi, Corey. Long-time listener. First-time caller. Is it true seahorses mate for life? For life? And then some, Corey said. They write joint tax returns in the afterlife. It's adorable but messy. Ectoplasmic ink gets everywhere. Brenda's giggles bubbled through the line. Success. Second caller. Devin, 10 years old, Boston. Do you know SpongeBob? Corey sighed. No, sweetie. He's union. We can't afford him. Ratings climbed faster than flying fish escaping tuna nets. Sponsors inquired. A sunscreen company. A mermaid tail blanket startup. Even a luxury dehumidifier brand. Because sometimes you need less water. Corey signed deals but refused anything exploitative. She wouldn't hawk plastic straws. Not after what they did to her cousin the turtle. Yet the core problem lingered. Mid-rant about pufferfish inflation rates, Corey caught herself thinking, would a land listener get this? The awareness stalled her punchline and drained spontaneity. Comedy, once a joyous current, felt like swimming against one. She confessed to Kelvin, I'm editing while I speak, filtering out who I am. Kelvin, unhelpfully philosophical. All communication is translation. Even among merfolk, you adjust dialect if you're chatting with deep-sea anglerfish or coral polyps. Sure, but my jokes are sprouting disclaimers like barnacles on a hull. That's when Clippy scuttled in, waving a smartphone sealed in a Ziploc. Fan mail. Might cheer you up. Corey read the message. Hey, Corey. I'm a marine biology student. Your podcast made me switch majors to stand-up comedy. My parents are furious. I'm ecstatic. Your algae joke last week. Hilarious once I Googled it. Don't dumb it down, please. Corey felt a ripple. Half pride, half terror, spread along her dorsal fin. Did relatability trump authenticity? Could she strike a chord without sanding off every scale? She called a staff meeting at Shipwreck Studio B. Capacity 17 hermit crabs and 1 disgruntled eel. Agenda. Craft a format allowing dual layers. Surface access on top. Briny subtext beneath. 2 jokes in 1. Kelvin called it the double bubble. Like chewing gum with liquid candy inside. He explained, referencing a treat no one under the ocean had ever tasted. Implementation. Corey would tell her usual ocean joke, pause, then deliver a land adaptation, but shorter, punchier. The effect. Listeners with gills got original flavor. Lungs got the remix. If a joke drowned either audience, no harm. They still had 50% chance to laugh. Pilot episode of the double bubble era opened. Corey. Why did the clam refuse to share his pearls? Because he was shellfish. Beat. Corey again. Land friends. Imagine someone hiding their iPhone charger. Same vibe. It worked. Dual applause emojis flooded comment sections. Some listeners even cross-analyzed. Yo. The first version had layered mollusk greed commentary. Second one's more capitalism light. Brilliant. As momentum built, so did guest bookings. She interviewed a narwhal who believed his tusk doubled as Bluetooth antenna, a Brooklyn street magician practicing card tricks in scuba gear, Poseidon's PR manager, there to dispel rumors the god's trident was a glorified pitchfork. One standout episode paired Corey with Dr. Lila Das, a human linguist exploring cross-species humor. They conducted live experiments. Dr. Das told a knock-knock joke. Dolphins squeaked the punchline in whistles. Corey translated back. Listener numbers shattered coral ceilings. Article headlines followed. Podcast breaks liquid barrier. Mermaid democratizes dad jokes. Then, disaster. Episode 27 was nearly wrapped when Clip the intern accidentally broadcast raw underwater audio without high-pass filters. To merfolk, the track sounded crisp. To land listeners, it was 46 minutes of garbled whooshing and whale farts. Twitter erupted. Gilgate trended. Someone memed a goldfish wearing AirPods, captioned, "I don't get it either." Sponsors threatened to swim away. Becky Beckford slid into DMs. Babe. Crisis. Opportunity. Lean in. Turn it into merch. Corey recorded an emergency apology, written entirely in silence, except hitting a triangle chime at minute marks, then back-translated for clarity. She promised a redacted oxygenated version, plus a bonus Q&A on audio engineering. Damage control succeeded. Numbers rebounded. But Clip resigned. I'm pursuing my true passion. Silent meditation in tide pools. The scandal left Corey pondering sound itself. Her entire project rested on converting an environment that hugged every decibel into one where silence was default. The ocean didn't clap. It crashed waves. Laughter underwater sounded like shredded tissue paper. Yet she kept chasing external affirmation. The roar of a sold-out theater she'd never physically stand in. Kelvin floated by with algae lattes. Deep thought time. Yeah, Corey sighed. Do I need humans to get every joke? What if the magic's in the mismatch? Kelvin slurped. Maybe humor is like brine shrimp. Thrives in salty conditions. Corey stared at him. That was either profound or nonsense. Double bubble, he declared, pointing at himself proudly. So she re-examined her mission statement, penned seasons ago on Driftwood. Make them laugh wherever they are. Them was vague by design. It included shrimps and sailors, toddlers and tunas. It didn't specify comprehension percentage. Humor could be translation, miscommunication, even the attempt itself. The flailing bubble pod at Shorecast Con had been funny, precisely because she was out of water. Season 3 debuted with a new tagline. Come for the jokes, stay for the confusion. Episode 1. Corey intentionally delivered one joke entirely in dolphin clicks, then cheerfully refused to explain it. Listeners posted phonetic guesses. A marine park offered to sponsor a decoding contest. Engagement up, pressure down. Corey was swimming with both audiences and expectations in happy equilibrium. Meanwhile, back at Siren's Grotto open mic, merfolk comedians griped that Corey went mainstream. She guest spotted one night. Bubblepod parked backstage, standing, floating, in familiar territory. She noticed something. Her ocean audience had begun quoting land jokes back at her. A sea lion shouted, "Tell the toll booth bit." They laughed at algae traffic because they now saw it mirrored in surface congestion. Culture exchange had woven a new net, catching humor previously foreign to both. Corey closed with, "You folks ever tried coffee? Stuff's like electrolytes on a jet ski." Half the room hadn't, but they laughed anyway, delighted by the absurdity of caffeinated seawater. Post-show, a young merperson approached, clutching a waterproof phone. "Ms. Finley, I started a spin-off podcast, Tales from the Tide, all in whale song. Hardly any humans get it, but that's the joke. Thank you for the inspo." Corey's heart swelled. Or maybe that was mild decompression sickness. Either way, satisfaction washed over her like a warm Gulf Stream. Months rolled by. Killing Me Softly passed 10 million downloads. A Hollywood studio pitched a sitcom adaptation. They wanted to pair her with a cynical talking pelican, replace her bubble pod with a jacuzzi, and maybe give her legs for broader appeal. Corey politely declined, though she kept the concept art of the pelican It made a great dartboard. In episode 40, the anniversary special, Corey interviewed herself via pre-recorded alter ego Coraletta. Listeners heard a duel of perspectives. Ambitious land-leaning host versus salt-to-the-core mermaid. In the end, they agreed. You can be bilingual in laughter. To celebrate, Kelvin hosted a rooftop party on a sunken casino. Guests included Ozzy, the rehired Clip, now mindfulness coach, Becky via hologram, and Dr. Das, streaming from a submarine. They danced to DJ Orca's remixes. They sipped seafoam spritzers. At midnight, fireworks launched above the waves, mirrored by bioluminescent plankton below, fusing worlds in flashes of color. Corey rose inside her bubble pod to give a toast. To jokes that need footnotes, she began. To punchlines that flop. To breathers and gillers. And to every moment we almost drowned in awkward silence. May we never be fully understood, because mystery keeps comedy buoyant. Kelvin belched agreement. Crabs clacked claws in applause. Even the whale's skull loft seemed to grin, sockets glowing with passing jellyfish. And somewhere, on land, a freshman pulled an all-nighter, earbuds in, laughing at an in-joke about plankton traffic she still didn't really get. She laughed anyway, trusting that humor, like ocean currents, doesn't need permission to travel. Corey's quest had begun with forgetfulness, forgetting that her audience lacked gills. It ended not in perfect remembrance, but in shared amnesia, a blissful space where everyone forgot why they weren't supposed to laugh together. There, gills or no gills, the jokes found oxygen enough